Hi, everybody. It's Gene Simmons, and you're not, and you're listening to the Potter Than Hell podcast with Steve, BC, BB, and Dylan. But you knew that, didn't you?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Potter Than Hell podcast. This is your last stop on the crazy train of hard rock and heavy metal. So sit back, buckle in, and hang on. Here we go.
Hello, Potter Than Hell Hellions. Welcome back to the Potter Than Hell podcast. This is Stephen Michael from the Growin Up Rock Podcast, and I am your co-host today, along with
Steve.
So the two Steves are here alone. That's it. We're back doing Volume 2 of the Judas Priest series. And today's albums will be covering the 3 and 4 albums for Judas Priest, Sin After Sin and Stained Class. Steve-O, what's going on with you? What's happening? What are you doing?
Not much, same old stuff. Just got out of work and actually have to go into work tonight. But cool to be here hanging out with you. It's the first I've seen you or talked to you besides texting since our awesome cruise that we were on with you and Jen and the Poonies and myself and my wife. And good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, you too. We had a good time. I take it that everybody feels about the same way.
Yeah, everybody. Reviews were good. Reviews were really good. We had a great time, and hopefully we can kind of make it a semi-regular thing.
So we can repeat that again, right?
Absolutely.
There you go. So what are you listening to these days?
These days, the other night I was spinning some vinyl and I threw on some classic Helix. I did No Rest for the Wicked and Walking the Razor's Edge, 2 albums that I hadn't listened to in a while. I forgot how much I actually liked. The production was good on them and that. And I was listening to today's October 23rd that we're recording this, but you guys, this is probably going to be December that you're actually hearing it. But I am actually checking out and have been listening to the current Tool set list because I will be going to see them on November 7th. And I'm really looking forward to it. And I just never got into Tool until recently. And my buddy Dave Broski that comes on the podcast does our classic rock stuff. I'll be going with him and his son Jake and someone else. I'm not sure who that is at this time. But man, there's some heavy stuff on there. Holy crap. And the musicmanship is just amazing. I can't wait to see how it comes off live. And I'm excited about it. How about you? What are you listening to?
Oh, well, I did a lot of pre-searching, preparing for this episode, and as well as listening to the new Rolling Stones record that just recently came out because I want to give that opportunity and a chance to listen to it. Also been listening to at the time of this recording, and the episode will be out towards the end of November, but I was working on the Billy Idol Rebel Yell because that was a album that we covered for our 40th anniversary series that we've been doing all year here at the Growin Up Rock Podcast. And so that's been going well as well. So it's good. And then whatever new comes out, checked out the new Lynch Mob and checked out a few other things. And, it's pretty much, that's the drill. Whatever new comes out, that's what we listen to. And whatever we're doing homework on for the podcast, that's what we're listening to.
Yeah. Hey, what'd you think of the Stones album?
Hey, I'll be honest with you, man. I was really, really surprised and impressed. I thought it was actually a really, really solid record because, man, I mean, let's face it, there is no other iconic band as big as the Stones short of the Beatles, right? It's pretty much the Beatles and the Stones are the biggest iconic rock bands ever. And them at their age, they really, I mean, of all the bands that don't have to put out new music, they would be one of them. They certainly have no reason to put out music. Nobody can say it's a money grab. Nobody can say that there's nothing that says they need to put out new music, but they did. and they put out this entire record. And even if they're saying, hey, this is our swan song, this is the last Stones album of new material, I think it's really good. Have you given it a listen?
I had a chance to listen to about half of it, and I really liked what I heard so far. And because right before it was put out, they put out the video for Angry.
Mm-hmm.
And
the great
did you
video.
see the video? It was cool. Like, it has all the classic scenes on the billboards and stuff.
Very
and the song's
cool.
really good. It was cool that they showed Charlie Watt in the video as well. And I listened to about half of it only because that's all I had a chance to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
But I will definitely be getting back to it. And I enjoyed what I heard. I was like, damn, like, and you're absolutely right. I mean, these, of anyone that's out there still doing anything, they're the band that does not need to do anything else. And they do. And they did. And I applaud them for it. You know, I mean, they're making music just because they want to make some music.
Yeah. They had Charlie Watt on one or two songs. They had Bill Wyman, I think, on a song. And I'm assuming that this is all stuff they were recording and working on when those guys passed away. So that's why they're on the tracks.
Right.
But the album as a whole is a pretty solid, like, rock record. I mean, it's pretty standard for the Stones. There's a blues tune on there, Muddy Waters cover. There's a tune that Keith Richards sings that's, you know, I mean, Keith is who he is, right? He's not the best singer in the world, but he does his thing, and that's fine. You respect that. And Jagger sounds pretty good. I mean, I realized one thing with this record is that I don't necessarily think Jagger was ever the best singer in the world. And in this album, he comes across in a lot of places like kind of an old style English punk singer. Like, he has like a lot of like those sort of Johnny Rotten qualities to his voice at times, which I actually think that's pretty cool, you know, in certain places. So overall, I was just really impressed. And, you know, I don't want this to be a Stones, we sidebar from Priest to Stones, but I felt like, you know, that was something worthwhile talking about. And I would encourage people, hey, you know, at least go give it a listen on your favorite streaming platform just to check it out, because it is worth the listen.
Hey, they're both British.
Yeah. They're both English bands. There you go.
Yep.
So, yeah. Have you had an opportunity to check out the new Priest song? And if so, what is your thoughts on that?
I did. It's called Panic Attack. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very firepower-ish. Kind of comes off of the vibe that we had from the last album from them. The soloing in it is great. I would like to know how much Glenn Tipton actually plays on the album, but I've pre-ordered it, and I enjoyed it. Had a that little element of turbo in the beginning there that kind of caught my attention, but I enjoyed it. I think it's aggressive. That the drums are like way out front on it. It's crazy, but I'm enjoying it so far. I can't wait to hear what else they have to put out there.
Yeah, I have to admit I was a bit disappointed with it when I first heard it, and I've only spun it a couple times, but I think my expectations were pretty high because I loved Firepower so much. Like, Firepower to me was just amazing, and the first few singles they released off Firepower were really just like riff-tastic, you know, in your face type thing. And this one, when it starts out with the sort of the turbo feel and the keyboards, like you mentioned, and then it's kind of the harmony guitar type intro thing, it doesn't get right into the riff. And so that felt a little disappointing to me. I'm going to give it some more chances, and I still have high hopes for the record as a whole. I'll no doubt get it because Firepower was just too good. But yeah, just slightly disappointed with the first single. That's all.
Well, you know, I think, and you said that you were kind of disappointed it didn't get right to the riff. I kind of like that it built the tension. You're like, come on, like, what's this going to sound like? You get that little, I think it built a little bit of tension, but like, thank God it wasn't just one of those standalone intro things that I fucking hate. But it did build for me a little tension. I'm like, okay, come on, like, what is this going to sound like? And I think when it did kick in, I think that was a good payoff.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Band has been busy. The band is touring around and playing shows and getting ready and doing a bunch of press. They just recently played that Power Trip Festival out in California. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think it was cool. I saw a bunch of videos from it. I think they sounded great. They looked great. And Andy Sneap on guitar once again. It was cool. You know, I have the set list here. Their come on song is, and it's been for years, has been War Pigs. Then they did the Hellion, but when they did that on the screens, they had the announcement of the new album on the screens for the show. So I think that was cool too. Then they went Electric Eye, Riding on the Wind, Heading Out to the Highway, Lightning Strike, Diamonds and Rust, The Sentinel, Touch of Evil, Turbo Lover, Firepower, Desert Plains, Rapid Fire, Green Manalishi with the 2-prong crown. You got Another Thing Coming, and then Painkiller. They went off, came back. Of course, Motorcycle comes out, Hellbent for Leather. Metal Gods, Glenn Tipton came out for Metal Gods and Breaking the Law. And Living After Midnight, I think as well, he stayed. And then their walkout song, whatever, is We Are the Champions. I'll tell you what, they covered a lot of ground on this set list, and they were the band that replaced Ozzy, I guess, because Ozzy was supposed to play that festival, but with Ozzy's health, I doubt he'll probably ever play again live. Maybe one or like in a chair or something like that, but I don't see Ozzy doing any kind of shows and stuff, and that's fine with me. You know what? God love the guy. How he's still alive. There's him and Keith Richards. Like they're kind of almost neck and neck. But I think it's great that they're still out there. Halford, I think he still sounds fantastic, and I'm glad there was some cool stuff there. Would you check anything out from that or no?
I didn't actually check out any of the videos from it, but I did read the set list, and I thought the set list was awesome. I would be happy to see that set list, no problem.
Oh, absolutely. They covered some good stuff there, and stuff that they hadn't played. Heading Out to the Highway, they haven't played that a lot lately. Diamonds of Rust, they haven't busted out lately. Desert Plains, it was cool to see in there. Rapid Fire, and of course, the end of the show, you have your usual ones. You get Another Thing Coming, Painkiller, Hellbent for Leather, Metal Gods, and the British Steel stuff at the end. But there's a good meat of the show there. I like it.
Yeah, and Priest has always been one of those bands who's done a really good job at mixing up their set list and playing some deep tracks and stuff like that. I love that about them.
Yeah, they've been known to dig deep, and that last tour they did, they busted out some stuff. And actually, when we talk about Stained Class, there's a song on there that we were at the show that it was. The album came out in 1978, and we were the first ones to see that song performed live. It was awesome.
It's awesome. All right. Do you have anything to add before we jump into these two albums?
Nope. I think I'm ready to roll.
So let's get to it. We're talking about the third and fourth album releases for Judas Priest, Sin After Sin and Stained Class. So I will start with Sin After Sin, and then somewhere down the line, I will throw it over to my friend and co-host, Steve-O, and he will take you through Stained Class. So very quickly, Sin After Sin was released in April of 1977. That's the bicentennial year there, Steve-O. Do you remember 1977?
Wasn't the bicentennial 1976?
No, wasn't it 77?
No, Spirit of 76. Come on.
Didn't they do something with 1977, though? God, it seems like I remember something as a kid. And
maybe they were still hungover from the year before.
Maybe so. Yeah, that makes sense. There you go. Anyway, They recorded the record. Back in those days, they recorded and released records pretty quickly. So they recorded the record in January of 77, and by April 77, it was out. Length of the record is 40 minutes and 36 seconds. And the reason that Sin After Sin is a fairly important album for Judas Priest is because this is the first record on Columbia Records, which they would go on to release the pinnacle of their albums on Columbia, and Sony would be their record label. And so they had those first two albums out on Gull Records. The producer for this record is Roger Glover from Deep Purple. You don't think of Roger Glover as a producer, but he has produced some rock bands along the way, this one being one of them. He also produced the debut, I think it's the debut album, or I'll tell you what, it might have been Future World for Pretty Maids as well. And I think he's done a Rainbow album as well.
Yeah, he's done a lot more than, people think, and you do. You only think really Deep Purple when you hear Roger Glover, but he's done some good stuff out there.
That's right. So 1977 is early on. I mean, this is pre-Van Halen. Any idea what other albums were released in 1977 that would fall under the hard rock or metal umbrella?
Kiss Alive 2, Love Gun.
Yeah,
they come to mind right away.
All right. So I'm going to give you a rundown real quick of other albums that were released in 77, just so you can kind of understand where we're at musically in this journey. So Sin After Sin, obviously. Spectres by Blue Oyster Cult. Rock City by Wright. Off the Record by Sweet. Lace and Whiskey by Alice Cooper. Bat Out of Hell. Innocent Victim Uriah Heep. Let's see. Violation by Stars. Who else we got here? Lust for Life by Iggy Pop. Lights Out by UFO. That's a great album. Taken by Force by the Scorpions. Draw the Line by Aerosmith. So Aerosmith's sort of on their way down at this point.
Yeah.
Bad Reputation by Thin Lizzy. Little Queen by Heart. As you said, Love Gun. Motorhead's debut album. In Color by Cheap Trick. Legs Diamond. Remember that band?
I know the name. I've seen the name a bunch, but I couldn't even name a song from them.
Here's one that doesn't seem as old as 77. Point of No Return by Kansas. Rush, Farewell to Kings, Waiting for the Night, The Runaways. Cat Scratch Fever by Ted Nugent. Queen of Noise, The Runaways. Rock and Roll Machine by Triumph. That's a great record.
They don't seem like that old of a band either, do they?
No, not at all. On Stage by Rainbow. Foreigner's debut album came out in 77. Nevermind the Bullocks by Sex Pistols. This is one of your favorite albums, Steve. The Grand Illusion by Styx.
Love it.
So there were some good releases in 77. Don't you agree?
I do. But there's like very little of the heaviness that you're going to get with this
That's
album.
Right. That's right. So the album or the band at this point consists of Rob and Ian and Glenn and KK. And you'll notice that it's a bit of a revolving door as far as drummers go for Judas Priest for a while. So the last album had, and I don't remember his name, but on this album, Simon Phillips, who's a session player, played the majority of the drums, but you also have the first appearance by Les Binks and Dave Holland around this point. And it's funny because Dave Holland wouldn't come into the picture till a little bit later. You got Les Binks that does this album and the Stained Class album. And then he eventually leaves. This is the last album also to feature the old font logo of Judas Priest. So that kind of script writing that you saw on the first three well, the first two Priest albums is also on Sin After Sin, but after Sin After Sin, that font logo sort of disappears, and you get what most people know as the Judas Priest logo today, right? Let's see. Sin After Sin, the title of the album actually came from a phrase that was in the song Genocide from Sad Wings of Destiny. Did you know that?
I did know that. Only because I read it today.
There you go. Damn, that Wikipedia is insightful.
Gotta love it.
All right, so I'm going to go through these songs real quick. If you want to, I'm going to ask you your opinion on each one, but we're not going to spend a ton of time on each one of these songs unless you really have something insightful that you want to say. But let's start with the album Kickoff. For me, this is a classic Priest song, and that is The Sinner. Written by Rob Halford and Glenn Tipton. You wouldn't think this song is 6 minutes and 45 seconds, but this song, man, this is definitely a staple in the Priest catalog. I love it. What about you?
Yeah, this is a great one. You know, it's heavy. They still play it now, and this is the song that was always KK Downing's feature song. Where on Unleashed in the East, he does all that crazy whammy bar shit. I don't know if you've ever seen the concert from '82, the one in Memphis. That's his showcase song. Just heavy as hell. Like the I love the God and the Devil. That like that part. And it's a fantastic kickoff to the album, and you could tell right off the bat that the production is way stepped up from what they did on Gull Records. And and the drummer that they had before was Alan Moore.
Okay, thanks for that. Yeah, definitely with this record. So on Sad Wings of Destiny, we talked about it. You started to see flashes of what would become Priest, right? They were definitely still confused while they were with Gull Records because they had like songs like Genocide, but then they did those weird, like moody songs, progressive, just strange things. So I don't think they really knew who they were, but this first album with CBS, right off the bat, you kind of see, okay, wow, this band sounds much more produced. It was obviously a larger label, so there was more money involved in it at that point. They go from Sinner to Diamonds and Rust, which is a Joan Baez song. If you're not sure who Joan Baez is, she's an old folk singer-songwriter from the 60s, I guess, basically, 60s and 70s. And Diamonds and Rust was a song of hers. I think this one also is pretty much a classic Priest song at this point. And yeah, I think it's a great song. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't mind this one. It's I want to honestly say I think the first time I ever heard the song was on Unleashed in the East, which was the first Priest album that I got. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And then, like down the road, you're like, oh, well, that's a cover. I'm like, oh. And then when I heard that, I was like, I'll take the Priest version anytime. But it's a good song, solid, and they just played it at the Power Trip thing. The only thing I didn't like is when Ripper Owens was in the band, they used to do it acoustically, live. And no, just I will take what they do with it now.
Yeah, and the theme for me is very much the same. I came, just for people that are coming into this series now, my history with Priest is I came in around British Steel and Screaming for Vengeance and then went backwards, but I started with Unleashed in the East. That was my entry point for all the old Priest. So these songs like Sinner and Diamonds and Rust and stuff like that, I heard it live first on the Unleashed in the East, same as you, Steve-O.
Yeah, same with me. And it's kind of like when you say, if you heard like Kiss Alive or Kiss Alive 2 first, you go back, you hear those, the studio versions, you're like, wow, like let's hear them live, So And we talked also too, and I just want to bring this up real quick in the beginning, that we talked about how on parts of the first 2 albums, Rob Halford's vocals were sort of restrained, and you could hear and feel him going for it more on this album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. You definitely see a change not only in the music, but in his vocal.
Yeah, he seems more comfortable in his voice.
Yeah, his vocals screaming, so to speak. So we go from Diamonds and Rust to Starbreaker, written by Halford, KK, and Tipton. Starbreaker is one that they bought back on a couple of tours ago. I actually saw them perform this one live. Again, this is another song that I dig. So right off the bat, the first 3 songs for me are really working.
Yeah, this was a cool track for me too. And when they put out Unleashed in the East, of course, for it to fit on an album, it wasn't the full show. So this was one of the songs that they left off that is on the streaming version, where it has I think it has this, Hellbent for Leather, maybe Delivering the Goods, something like that. But this is one of those songs that they were playing live then. And I was listening to this today, and I'm like, when they do the chorus, there's claps in there. Stark. You can hear them. You can hear clapping in it, which I thought was kind of cool and a little weird for a Priest thing. It's a great deep track. And I did see them play it live too when they busted it back out a couple of years ago. And that's the good thing about Priest. They got songs like these, and like now with, you know, the modern sound, modern production, live stuff, and Scott Travis playing these songs on drums. Just really good Priest deep track.
Yep. Yeah, it is. So at this point, I'm thinking, okay, the beast that is the Priest has finally discovered who they are, and they're settling into what they're going to become. And we're 3 songs into this record, and everything's good. And then we get to this song, Last Rose of Summer, written by Halford and Tipton. And I can only assume that this was a leftover from the early years, or they just weren't comfortable doing all metal. But I got Simple Notes, which says this song sucks ass. What is your thoughts on Last Rose of Summer?
What you said, yes, it does suck ass. And I listened to this like yesterday, and I listened to it again today. This song seems like it's fucking 12 minutes long, but it's only like, I don't know, like 3 and change or something like that. And they apparently did not get all of that out of their system at this point. And but this one is just it's a dud for me. It's just like piano and ballad. Like, it's just, Priest is not a band to do this stuff. Even at this point, it doesn't fit the album. It does not fit the album. I hate it.
Yeah, it's not good. It just, like you said, they just didn't quite get everything out of the system. And I think you're gonna see that as a theme through this record. If you go chronologically from Rock-a-Rolla to Sad Wings of Destiny to Sin After Sin, it becomes less and less this side of Priest, which is a good thing. And they sort of discover who they are, who they're going to be, who they want to be. But it's just like, I can't quite get everything out of my system yet. I still got to latch on to this. It's 1977, so we're not quite out of that phase yet. And yeah, it's not a good song.
It does feel like it's a leftover from that Gull Records era, though. So
yeah,
I can forgive them, I guess.
So then we flip it. Yeah, it is. It's the last song on side 1. Then we flip over to side 2, and we start off with a song called Let Us Pray, Call for the Priest, written by Halford, Downing, and Tipton. It's okay for me. I don't need the intro, though. I would rather them just cut into the rocking part and just kind of do away with that whole intro to the song. What say you?
Yeah, if this song just kicked off to the it would be fantastic, especially opening up side 2 of an album. I think it would be like like way better than putting that "Let Us Pray" in the beginning there. And I think that like there's a lot of dual guitar playing in this one. The solos are friggin' ripping in this one. I think I would love to hear this one played live, like now with the band they have now. I think they would absolutely rip on this one.
Yeah, it's possible. Then we go to a song called "Raw Deal." And the notes next to this song says, "The brazenly homoerotic song Raw Deal has been described as vocalist Rob Halford's coming out song and a heavy metal gay rights song." So keep in mind that this is 1977 and Halford didn't come out as a gay guy until 1998. So interesting, but I dig the groove in this song. I actually think that this is a decent song musically. I've never been a lyrics guy, so I didn't listen too deep to the lyrics to, say whether, okay, I see it or not. But, yeah, overall, I think it's a cool groove tune and fits in with the rest of, the regular Priest stuff. What say you?
Yeah, another decent deep track I think they got going here. And this one, it does have a little funky kind of groove to it that is pretty cool. And I think that the production on this one is really cool. There's some like swells if you have it on in your headphone. And like for like the last minute and a half, the tempo picks up, and I really like that. Cool drum fills in this one. And Simon Phillips does a fantastic job on this whole album. Great deep track.
Yeah. And then we hit another wall in the album, and we come to a song called "Here Comes the Tears," written by Halford and Tipton. I'll keep this brief and short. Also sucks ass. What say you?
Yeah, here we go again. Come on, guys. And you take these two songs off this album. I mean, you pretty much have an EP if you take these two songs off the album.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this one is not as bad as Last Rose of Summer. There's at least some good soloing that goes on this one. It picks up a little bit at the end, but I'm just, that's another no. I'm good.
That's a no for me, dog.
Yeah. Can't help you on that one.
But, and this is a huge but, we don't end with that. We redeem ourselves in epic fashion, in my personal opinion, and we end with a song called "Dissident Aggressor," written by Halford, Downing, and Tipton, that is 3 minutes and 7 seconds of badassery in 1977. Holy shite. This song is heavy AF. And it is so killer. I love this song. This is one of my favorite deep tracks by Priest. So many bands have covered this song in the last several years because all these metal bands realize that this song is so great. What say you, Steve?
Yeah, this song is probably one of the ultimate deep tracks on a Judas Priest album. I like that it fades in with that scream, but the chugging in it is fantastic. The drumming, great versions by Hailstorm. The Slayer does another killer version of it. And this is, our boys won a Grammy for this song in 2010 for a live version of it from the Touch of Evil live album. So, someone else must be listening out there. I think, truthfully, the Grammy people must have just picked it out of a fucking hat or something because they're clueless. But, at least they did get some recognition for it. And I'm glad to see that they did, bust this one back out because it's a fantastic track. Love it. Great way to end the album.
Yeah, it is a really fine capper on the end of the album. And to your point, like, really, this is a pretty solid record and pretty good indication of what Priest wants to be, what they will become. It's just they couldn't quite get all the shit out of their system with Last Rose and with Here Come the Tears. It just, it really took this album down a notch, and they would go on, and we'll talk about it as we go through the series further. But I mean, eventually they kind of figured out, hey, we can do some slower stuff. We just need to make sure that we don't do it completely slow all the way through, and we're able to add some Priestisms in there and make it, truly a Priest song. And they finally figured that out, but they ain't figured it out yet. That's for sure.
No, they're still working on it at this point.
That's right. All right, so we gonna get into a hidden gem here in between, and
why don't you give us your gem song to play us into it?
Yeah, so we'll take a brief break here, and I'll leave you guys with this gem song, which goes along with the episode and the song "Dissident Aggressor" that we just talked about. I'm going to get you guys to take a listen to Lizzie Hale and Hailstorm's version of Dissident Aggressor. Hailstorm does a great job at putting out these EPs with cover songs, and they'll cover standard metal songs that they do really good versions on, but they'll also take a left turn and cover some songs from the pop world and kind of rock them out a lot. And I just find that their EPs, their cover song EPs, are very entertaining and a nice quick listen at 4, 5, 6 songs on each one. But this one comes off the 2.0 cover EP, and this is Dissident Aggressor by Hailstorm. So a little Hailstorm there, Steve-O. What'd you think of that version?
Great version. I enjoy it. I think that the Hailstorm does a fantastic job of it, and they kind of put a little bit of their own spin on it too, which I like when bands do that. It's not, the exact to what the original band did. They made it their own, and it's a fantastic version. Good pick.
Yeah, plus you get the modern recording of it, right? The guitars, the great distortion and the heavier recording. It sounds massive, and I love it. Love it. She does a great job. So, Steve-O, you're going to take over, and we're going to run through Stay in Class now?
Let's do our hidden gems first before we get into that.
Okay.
And what do you got first this week?
Let's see. My hidden gems this week. I sent you a nice little Striker song. This is called Phoenix Lights, and it's a fantastic album from a Canadian rock band that, they're very heavy, but they've got some melodic things, and I wanted to go after something that was heavy to go along with this Judas Priest episode. That song comes off the Stand in the Fire album from 2016. And, I would encourage anybody that's into Judas Priest to check out Striker from Canada. They've got some great albums out there, and they're heavy, but they still have some melodic sense. And that singer, Dan Cleary, he's really, really good.
Yeah, great pick. When you sent me that today, I'm like, well, I know these guys. So I looked and I already have them and this album in my Apple Music. Great band. I'm glad you reminded me of these guys, because I'm going to go back and maybe listen to the last couple albums. Heavy, the soloing is fantastic. Great pick. I'm glad you reminded me of these guys. So I will definitely be checking them out again.
Yeah, and they've got new one coming. They just put out a single, and the new record is ready to release. I'm sorry, I don't remember exactly when that's coming out, but it's sometime like really, really soon.
Oh, good. I did hear the new song that they put out. It was, but it was out a little while ago, though, right? It wasn't very recent.
They've dropped little singles over the last year and a half, 2 years. They've dropped one or two singles, and we've spotlighted them because I like the band. And we did an interview with Dan Cleary back 3 years ago on the Play to Win tour. But I thought there was a new album coming, and they never released a new album. So I think they were just kind of doing the same thing that a lot of bands are doing these days, which is putting out singles. But they did release a recent single within the last month or so with the announcement that the new record is coming, and coming pretty quickly. So,
all right, I will absolutely be looking for that. And my hidden gem today it's actually a new song, and BC brought it to my attention today, and we got to see these guys live, play their first show live at M3. Stephen Riley's LA Guns put out a new song. It's called The Dark Horse. It's actually pretty good. I liked it, and I did not like the last LA Guns album. At all. I don't know. I don't know
which LA Guns are we talking about.
The Tracy Guns and Philip Lewis version. Yeah. That Black Diamonds, I think it was called, or something like that. I didn't care for it, but I thought this song was pretty good. So, and like I said, we got to see these guys live at M3. They were good. They put out that album Renegade maybe 2 years ago, and I thought that was solid. So I'm looking forward to checking out the rest of this. I don't know if did you get a chance to listen to that or no?
I did. Yeah, I did. So I didn't like the song Dark Horse. I didn't particularly like it. I did, however, like Renegades, the last album that Steve Riley's version put out. I thought that was a pretty solid record from Kelly Nichols and Steve Riley. I'm with you. I didn't like the last LA Guns, Tracy and Phil album that they put out, but the two before that I thought were fairly solid. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's going on there. I think Tracy and Phil may be getting tired of each other, and this last album that they did, I think maybe was just they needed to fulfill a contract or something, maybe.
Could be,
I don't know what's going on in that camp, but this, I hope the record's better. I just didn't particularly love this song. That's all.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now that takes us to 1978. We'll get a little Stained class going here. The album came out on February 10th of 1978. This one's produced by Jim McKay and Judas Priest. However, the song Better By You, Better Than Me was produced by James Guthrie. It's album number 4, and it's 43 minutes and 40 seconds long. So it doesn't take up a whole lot of your life to give this a good listen. We kick off, and actually this is the first album with Les Binks on the drums as well. And Simon Phillips was asked to join the band, and he didn't want to. So they tried out a bunch of guys, and Les Binks got the job. So we kick off the album with Exciter. Great drums from right off the bat. You could get Les Binks right in there. Just a great song, opening track as well on Unleashed in the East. I love the fall to your knees and repent if you please. And the soloing in this is where now you have the deadly dual guitar attack of KK Downing and Glenn Tipton on this one. It's written by Rob Halford and Glenn Tipton. And just a great pace, great album opener. And I love it. And there's a ton of lyrics to this song too. It's like he sings a lot of shit in this song. So I think it's a great start. What do you got, Steven?
Oh, yeah. So the first time I heard this was on Unleashed in the East, and I was sold. That song alone was what made me go back and pick up the Stained Class record. Just killer opening track. Love it. And again, they're showing, hey, we're back, right? So they're sort of picking up where Dissident Aggressor left off.
I think so. Absolutely. They go from, now I think that they expelled that crap, and we're kicking off this one great. Second track written by Glenn Tipton, White Hot Red Heat. Just a good driving song. It's got chugging bass in it. I love the drum fills in it. The solo's great. And definitely a Priest hidden gem. I want to say this might be one that Halford played when he was doing Halford, but I don't know if Priest has played this in years, but because it might even be on one of the when Napster was out and all those bootleg shows were out, and the Live Resurrection album. It might be on that. I'm not sure, but it is one of the songs that he definitely busted out during that period when he was out of Priest, but great track as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Dig the groove.
All right. Third track, Better By You, Better Than Me, Spooky Tooth cover song written by Gary Wright. This is the one that they got sued over about the two young men with the suicide pact, and the case was thrown out. I won't get into all that, but that's what this song was over. And it was, I feel bad for the parents of these guys, but it's not a thing I'm going to get into right now anyway. But I like the song. I think it's cool, but you could tell the different production on this song from the rest of the record, because this is the one that was they tried to get Jim McKay to produce this song because they wanted another one for the album, but he was unavailable. So they got James Guthrie, and they really liked what he did with it. So they brought him on board, and he recorded the next couple albums for them as well. Just a good song. It's got that intensity to it. I think it's a great track, and they played this song live right after the lawsuit. Like the first show they did after the lawsuit, and I don't think they've played it again since then.
Yeah, so it's not Jim McKay. I think it's Dennis McKay.
Okay.
Do you have that? Am I wrong, or are you right? I have Dennis McKay.
Am I thinking Jim McKay from Worldwide Sports?
Yeah, I think so. So just a slight correction there, and I think it's it's a good tune. If you want to know more about the lawsuit, send people over to the Growin Up Rock podcast. We did a whole episode on it this week in rock.
It is Dennis McKay. I apologize.
Okay. No worries.
No wonder I see Jim McKay. That shows what I was watching when I was a kid. Dennis.
Yeah. Yeah, go to the Growin Up Rock podcast and listen to This Week in Rock. We do a whole thing on the lawsuit. But getting back to the song, so you know who Gary Wright is, right?
Yeah.
Gary Wright was in Spooky Tooth. He wrote Dreamweaver.
Dreamweaver, yep.
Gotta love Dreamweaver. Yeah, I agree with you, Steve. I like the groove of this. I think it's just a good driving tune. I haven't heard the original, but I'm guessing the original is awful.
I heard it a while ago, but I don't remember exactly how it was. It was okay. It wasn't this, that's for sure.
Okay. You know who else was in Spooky Tooth, don't you?
Mm-mm.
So Spooky Tooth was Mick Jones's first band, I think.
Oh, from Foreigner?
Yeah, from Foreigner. There were a lot of people over the years. There were a lot of people that were in Spooky Tooth that went on to do some pretty good things. I mean, Gary Wright wrote Dreamweaver. I think by far Mick Jones was the most famous guy to go on to do Foreigner. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, next track up, Stained Class, title track on the album, written by Rob Halford and Glenn Tipton. Another good one, cool beginning. It's just, a semi-early Judas Priest chugger. Rob Halford gets really up there with his vocals on this one. Right before the solo, there's a friggin' fantastic riff in there. And it ends really cool. It's got a cool echo at the end. I think it's a cool song, and I think it's a really cool, album title as well. I think it's cool because you think it's stained glass, but you get Stained Class. I like it.
Yeah, I had to look at that a couple times to make sure that I was right on that deal.
Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I haven't listened to this song all that much in a while, and for some reason it hit me right today, and I really enjoyed that tune.
Yeah, this was one that he busted out in Halford as well, because I do have this on a CD somewhere where he does Stained Class. Very, very good, good deep track. So that takes us next to the song Invader, which is kind of odd because it's written by Rob Halford, Glenn Tipton, and Ian Hill has a writing credit on this song. And that kind of got me thinking, like, that's something you don't see. And he has 3 writing credits through the Priest catalog. He has a writing credit on the song Winter from Rock-A-Rolla, and on Caviar and Meths from Rock-A-Rolla as well, and Stained Class are the only 3 writing credits that Ian Hill has in the whole Judas Priest catalog. So, and you know what? And this song has been in my head for 3 days. Invader, that the chorus is just like, it's the one that's been boring a hole into my brain. Cool. This is another one that's got a little groove to it as well. It's got a good, like, head bobbing kind of thing. I really dig this track. How about you?
Yeah, so you know why it's probably burning a hole in your head is because I was listening to this today, and I was like, man, that's actually sort of similar. And mind you, this came way before it, but I said that's kind of similar to Iron Maiden's Invaders off of the Number of the Beast record. Just that part, just the chorus, because if I recall correctly, the Iron Maiden version is Invaders, da, 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 da. And this one is Invader. Same sort of sounds the exact same, right?
I could give you a little bit of love on that thought.
I mean, that's all I'm saying. I mean, and obviously,
which one do you like better?
Man, I like them both. I think probably just because it's a little more modern is the Iron Maiden version. But I don't know. I mean, I like them both.
All right. I really like Invaders from Maiden. A lot of people shit on that song. I think it's cool. I do like them both. But I'll edge out Iron Maiden a little more on that one. And you're right, because of the little more modern production. It's only like 3 years later, but it's still a little more, I don't know, modern production, if you want to call it, because I mean, and as Priest goes along, that we're going to talk about, like, the production just, keeps getting getting better on all these albums. So Invader's a cool one. That takes us to Saints in Hell. I kind of alluded to this before. When we saw them on the Firepower tour, we saw the opening show in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and this was the live debut of this song. So like 1970, and I want to say it was 2018 maybe that we saw this. So it's what, like 40 years later they played it live.
Yeah.
And it was cool because when they played it, you're kind of like, what the fuck is this? And then you're like, holy shit, Saints in Hell. And this song, it's a fitting title. The riff sounds evil. The vocals are high. The groove is great. It's not a blow off rocker, but it's got a great pace to it. There's some really cool headphone shit going on this song on the album itself. There's no real solo in here. There's just that like kind of echoey part, that that kind of that plotting part you get in the middle. But there's a lot of moving parts in this song. I think it's would be pretty crazy to relearn this one for these guys. And I thought it was fantastic that they did this.
Yeah, it's interesting how they pick certain songs, certain deep tracks to do live, because it's almost like they throw things in a hat. Because I'm sure, a bunch of people weren't going, hey, it'd be really cool if you played Saints in Hell from Stained Glass. It's just like, I don't know. And it's weird because it's a Halford Downing Tipton song. So, it's kind of weird. You're playing some of KK's stuff as your deep tracks when he co-wrote it, I don't know. It's just interesting.
Yeah. I wonder who drives the set list these days. If it's, with Richie Faulkner, I mean, he's not really the new guy anymore. He's been there like 10 years at least, I can
almost guarantee you it's Halford, because usually the vocalist is the one that drives the set list because they're the ones that got to sing it. So they're, guitar players can play just about anything.
So I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, I would personally say that I think it would maybe be more influence of Scott Travis and Richie Faulkner doing some of these deeper tracks.
Guarantee you it's Halford. Now they that's not to say that they don't come and say, hey, what do you think about playing this? But you know that Halford and Hill have the final say on everything. And so I'm just guessing that the vocalist is the one that drives it.
Well, I'm not saying that they're the ones that pick it, but I'm saying they're the ones that are throwing these suggestions out. And maybe, you know what? And maybe Priest is looking at bands like Kiss and going, we're not doing the same fucking thing every night.
And they don't. That's one of the things I said up at the top of the episode. Like, the Priest is great about changing up the set list, about doing some of the older tracks. I mean, they're fantastic about that. You can't bust their balls over the same set list all the time.
Nope. And they have their staples that they're going to have, the stuff from British Steel, from Screamin', but like they do sprinkle this stuff in, and I think it's fantastic.
Yep.
So the next track is Savage, written by Halford and Rob Halford and KK Downing. This one is one that's like, it's just okay for me. Another screaming start, got a decent groove to it. Definitely has that 70s Priest feel to it. I'm loving the drum sound still on this one, but this one is just, it doesn't really thrill me a whole lot like some of the other ones do.
I like it. I think it's a cool tune. So one of the things that became apparent when I was listening to this record is by the time I got to Savage, right? Because we're 7 songs into the record at this point, was the overall consistency of this record so far in terms of sound and songwriting. So to me, like, we haven't hit that brick wall, right? Like we said, with all the other albums, it sounds like they finally figured out who they were on the Sin After Sin record, but then they hit that brick wall at number 4 or 5. And so that hasn't happened. We're 7 songs in. And for me right now, this record feels like the most consistent Judas Priest record that's out there, in terms of the early stuff, right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It's just, and it is. We didn't get that one of these songs again. But I mean, I don't hate the song, but I think it's just one of the lesser songs on the album for me. Like everything can't be, stellar
right.
all the time.
But it's still rocking, right?
Oh yeah, it is. It is. It definitely keeps the momentum of the album going, where you don't have those bumps in the road that we've had consistently from the other albums.
That's right.
Yeah. So, Beyond the Realms of Death will be our next song, and this one is written by Rob Halford, and Les Banks gets a little writing credit on this one. And this one's mellower, but it's not that wall. It's not that bump in the road, because I think when this shows that Priest can do this kind of song and have it be really good. I think this song is powerful. I really do. Rob's vocals, there's some guitar harmonies in there that kind of give you that feeling in there. Keep this world and all its sin. It's not fit for living in. The solos are melodic in this one. I think this is like an epic Maiden song, Maiden, and an epic Priest song. I love this one. I think this song is fantastic, and it does that, not rocket stuff, but they do it the right way on this song. I think they got it right on this one.
So, yeah. I don't know if I love this song, but here's what I'll say. You're 100% right in what you're saying. It's slower, but it still keeps that heavy vibe. So for me, I still think this is in format for Priest. And to me, this is the song where I alluded to it on the Sin After Sin record where we were talking about it. They couldn't figure out how to do that ballady, slow stuff without Priest, adding some Priest flavors in there. To me, this is the first song that they did a little bit slower, had a little bit slower vibe, but very much still Priest, right? So this is kind of the precursor to songs like Pleasure and Pain and Take These Chains, where they Priestify it. So yeah, it might be a little slower point on the album, but still very much in format, right?
Yeah, like when the night comes down on Defenders. Yeah. And the thing is too, this song, you do have that the heaviness of it too. Like when you get for the solo, and it does have that pickup as well. So it's not like a total, like ballad type song. It has those peaks as well as those valleys, and I think they do it fantastic. And like you said, they figured it out on this song, and takes us to the final track on the album, written solely by Glenn Tipton, Hero's End. Another mid-tempo, like upper mid-tempo song on this one. I think it's a really good one. It sounds cool. The ending is cool. It's got that, like explosion, rumbling type sound at the end. I think it's a cool way to end the album. I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but it's really, it's a good deep track. This would be another one that if they busted out, like the deep Priest fans like us would be like, holy shit, like, wow, how did they pull this one out? Great ending to the album.
Yeah, agreed. Like I said, and I'll stand by this. I think that Stained Class is the first actual Judas Priest that we know and love album, because it's the most consistent of the first four records. And it's the most telling of who they would become, or at least the band that you and I both gravitated towards, right? With the British Steels and the Screaming for Vengeance and the Defenders of the Faith. This is the first consistency of that, in my opinion, personally. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, overall, it's still an album that has some bright spots in it, but it's not necessarily like the songwriting. They figured out the style. They figured out what kind of band they're going to be, but the songwriting, like some of these songs, I would consider more filler than anything. It doesn't necessarily mean I don't like the song. It just means that it's not a song that I would gravitate towards. Like it's not, Living After Midnight or Metal Gods or Electric Eye, right? They're those songs are head and shoulders above anything on this album. It's just, that's all I'm saying.
Right. And I wonder if they didn't feel that way as well, because Unleashed in the East comes out and there's only The Exciter's the only song on there from this album.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but I think, and you're right. It is, I think, the first, like, if you want to call it the first modern Priest album, from the no duds on there to the revamped logo. Mm-hmm. I think, and that we know and love and still see out there. And one thing we didn't do is, real quickly, we didn't talk about the album covers. For Sin After Sin, we have that crypt on there with the girls in the laying around the bottom of it, in silhouette. It's kind of a creepy cover.
Yeah, it's a dark, brooding type cover. And honestly, because you collect albums, I don't collect albums. So I see the image on a much smaller scale, but I don't know that I necessarily noticed the two silhouettes on each side of the album cover. Like, yeah, I noticed that today for the first time when I was really
they're kind of secondary to the monolithic crypt that they have there, which is pretty cool. And it gives you more of a dark feel than the album is, I think.
Yeah,
it kind of gives you more of a Sabbath vibe type of an album cover that you would think the Sabbath would put out, where some of their covers are like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
But and then for Stained Class, we have the glass skull with the spear going through it, which I think is pretty cool, which I'm not really sure what it has to do with Stained Class, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's okay. I think the colors pop. I like the brighter colors. That seems to pop a lot more. You got the new logo. So, I dig that cover.
And that wraps us up here for part 2 of our Judas Priest series with myself and my good buddy Stephen Michael there from the Growin Up Rock Podcast. Stephen, give us your final thoughts and give Growin Up Rock a good shot, and then we'll get the hell out of here.
All right. So I think both albums, Sin After Sin and Stained Class, are have definitely some really classic and great Judas Priest material. As I said, there's a couple of hiccups still on Sin After Sin, but I think that you can certainly forgive those hiccups when you have stuff like Sinner and Dissident Aggressor and Diamonds and Rust and Starbreaker. There's those spots are so bright that you just kind of skip over the two hunks of crap that are on that record. And then once you get to Stained Class, as I've said, I think that's the first honest, real Priest record. It's the most consistent of all their records. It's who we would eventually fall in love with and become fans of that band that's on Stained Class. And they would go on to write much better material than what's on Stained Class. So that's my thought on those two records. And Growin Up Rock Podcast. I think at this point, most of the people that listen to the Potter and Hell podcast probably listen to myself and Hollywood Pooney over there at the Growin Up Rock Podcast. But we have various different series, same as Potter and Hell. And, we put out 2 episodes a week, one small 15-minute or less dose of rock and roll where we're reviewing something or talking about something, and we do it in 15 minutes or less, and it's a great quick listen on your way to the grocery store. And then we pull out and put a full episode out on Sundays, and so you can check those out wherever you listen to your fine podcast.
All right. Yeah, Stephen, thank you for coming on again. And I think you're right. I think as we go along, the band starts to come into their own. We had Rock and Roll and Sad Wings of Destiny, Sin After Sin. You can see that you get that progression for every album that we've talked about so far. And I don't know about you, but I am sure as hell glad that Unleashed in the East was the first Judas Priest album that I heard. And I think when I did get that, I think Point of Entry was already out, because I remember being a fan when Screaming for Vengeance came out. So I'm going to say that Point of Entry was probably out when I first picked up Unleashed in the East. So, I mean, really at that point, if you pick up Rock and Roll, are you going to buy anything else from these guys?
No, and for me, it was the perfect entry point to the earlier Priest, because it was sort of a greatest hits to the earlier Priest, which was great because, I mean, you're not gonna, if the first place you start is British Steel and Screaming for Vengeance, in my opinion, you're not gonna top that. Like, for me, that's the pinnacle. And I like Point of Entry. Don't get me wrong, but my trilogy of Priest is British Steel, Screaming for Vengeance, and Defenders of the Faith. That's my trilogy. And again, I like Point of Entry. There's nothing wrong with it, but it got talked so badly about that record for a long time that I didn't pick it up right away. And when I did finally pick it up, I'm like, this record's pretty damn good. It's got a lot of good stuff on it. But it was British Steel to Screaming to Defenders for me. And that Unleashed in the East record, man, that was one of my favorite all-time live records, because it's just so good. And it's so good to hear that material live first, because it's a lot like Kiss. It doesn't live up to the live recordings. The studio recordings of these songs don't quite live up to those live recordings, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I wanted to get your opinion on that. And I love Priest. I remember I bought, I want to say Sin After Sin was the first album that I bought after Unleashed in the East. And I was like, okay, Sinner's kind of close. And then like there was really not much. Then like Last Rose of Summer, what is this shit? This stuff isn't on Unleashed in the East. But I do like the progression of the band. The maturity goes. Halford's going for more vocally. There's more soloing. There's more dual soloing. Some guitar harmonies in there too. I think it's a great progression. And Stephen, thanks for coming on, doing these with us, with me, and then gives my guys a break. And always fun. Good to see you again. And like I said, hope we could get another cruise. But I will be seeing you again in at the end of February, right?
February. That's
the end of February for Monsters of Rock cruise, and I'm definitely looking forward to that. And you have to check out KK's Priest with me on that boat.
I'll do it. I'll be honest with you. I'm not a huge fan of the KK Priest albums, but I will definitely go to at least one.
I love it.
One of the concerts, because I'm sure that he'll play one or two Priest songs in there, and that'll make me happy. I heard he was playing I think I saw one of the set list he had, like Beyond the Realm or Stained Glass on there or something like that.
Yeah, he's digging deep on a couple of the tracks in there.
Yeah, so that might be cool, but most definitely you can count on me to attend one of those concerts with you, buddy.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, everybody out there. Hope you guys are enjoying this series. I sure as hell am. And maybe we'll do this one, the part 3, a little sooner than we did this one. Yeah. Stephen was complaining to me earlier. I think, and actually, when you guys hear this one, it'll be probably like a year from when we did the first one. So maybe
I was going to
do it in the spring.
I was going to bust your balls a little bit on that, Steve. I couldn't even remember how the hell we did this series. It's been so long since we did volume 1. This is volume 2. It's like, good Lord.
Yeah, I think we recorded at the end of November last year.
And we're getting into my meat zone of Priest now, so I'm going to want to do these a little more often than once a year, my friend.
All right, we'll do one in the spring.
All right, Steve. Well, I appreciate you inviting me on to do this, and as always, we can talk Judas Priest till the cows come home. So it's all good.
Yep. All right, you guys, check out Growin Up Rock out there. They're 2 episodes a week on little ditty on Fridays and full episodes on Sundays. Check out a lot of the stuff we talked about today on our Spotify playlist that Dylan's going to be so kind to put up. And Steven, take care of yourself, my friend. And everybody out there, take care of yourselves and each other. And we will see you next time. And there definitely will be a next time.